This is James Landry. He's a law student at Florida State University and USAPL National competitor. When I observed his squat stance, he was using a slightly wider than shoulder width foot position and low bar squat. Some of the areas I thought could be improved on were better lat engagement, standing tall, finding his natural foot position where he would have the most mobility, and moving the bar up higher to prevent the excessive forward lean that he is demonstrating in these first sets before I gave him any of the coaching. So the types of things we did to correct this was moving the bar higher up. I also laid him on his back to find his proper hip position, and I dropped it to 2 plates so that he could feel the difference in form. I also told him to sit back. Right now I'm not giving any coaching, just trying to observe where he's at, what he's doing, and this next video will be after all of the coaching cues that I gave him: standing tall, engaging his lats, keeping his head up, and he still had a little bit of tendency to shoot his knees forward. So I really tried to focus on having him sit back, and I was giving him that command in the middle of this set to sit back, and he seemed to respond pretty well. Maintain better back position, keeping his elbows a lot more underneath him where they should be. And he also noticed how much more stress it put on his adductors. There he is. He's kind of, after that he had a lot of strain in his adductors, which is normal after switching up to a much wider stance. For the next videos are of his bench press. I noticed his wrist position was a little bit too far backwards. To correct it, I used the cue to keep his wrist in the same position that he would throw a punch. This will take pressure away from the tricep and also allow for greater lat engagement to bend the bar. I also saw that his legs were positioned straight forward and he wasn't fully engaging his hips to connect his bench press to his core. And this was really evident. And this next set is a little bit long, but you can see how he just totally loses tension at the bottom quarter of his reps. So right here at the bottom, it's really just he's bringing it down, pausing it, and then pressing up from a dead stop. And there was no stretch reflex to be observed. So I really wanted to have him feel what that was by engaging his hips and keeping that core pressurized, keeping his wrists in a better position to allow him to gauge his lats harder. And we'll see in these next sets after I gave him these cues. And here he is setting up. He did have trouble getting his wrists in position because he felt like it was going to fall out of his hands, which is normal for somebody that is trying this for the first time. And here I'm trying to tell him how to, get those wrists in position, bend the bar, really try to bend it as hard as you can, pushing his knees out as he is right now. And as he brings it down, the first rep is probably the best indicator, because after this his wrist will start to fall out of position, a little more so until about now where they're basically out of position. He's losing some of that lat engagement that he had on that first rep, but this was the same weight he was using for his working sets, so he could feel there was no decrease in his strength or in the amount of weight that he was pushing. So he seemed to respond really well to these changes in his setup. This next set, he had a lot better, he did a little bit better with keeping his wrists in position, and this is something that will just improve over time as he gets more comfortable with that, and with that he'll be able to engage his lats better. With this, I like seeing that the bottom quarter of his rep looks like he's pulling the bar into his chest a little bit more than just letting it drop. So he's able to keep that stretch, and even with this, the further he goes on, you can see he drops his wrist back and he loses that tension. So it's pretty clear what the difference was just in that wrist position and how much it affected his bench. Next videos are of deadlift. These are his before videos. I noticed that he could use a lot more attention to his setup. We focused on breathing techniques, engaging the lats, using the cue to try to put his shoulders in his opposite back pocket, and really trying to wedge under the bar to take the slack out. I also emphasize proper spine position, when I noticed that he had a tendency to slightly round his back at the beginning of the lift. And here he is after the coaching, really trying to get his back into position, and he responded very well to these cues. A lot less rounding of his lower back. He also noticed how hard it was to get into position, and I also tried to demonstrate to him how just with my getting into position, you know, I would be breaking 315 off the floor without even pulling it. So how much of a difference it makes. The next video will be of a forward view, and you'll be able to see the bar bending before he lifts it, which is a good indication that he is wedging under the bar. He is creating that pressure, and the more he practices this, the better he'll be able to get at it to build up that pressure. His shoulders, he's going to tighten up his shoulders, bring them back, and a lot better. These were his working sets, and he was lifting. There was no difference, no drop in strength. The only drop in strength was from his squat videos, because it was so much different form than he was used to. So overall, I think we did a good job coaching him on these 3 lifts, and we're looking forward to seeing what he'll produce in future meets and what he'll be posting up on his YouTube page. These next videos are of my squat, which is something I've struggled with for a long time. I have recently, in the last 6 months, really tried to commit to putting the bar higher up on my back. I was making a lot of the same mistakes that James was, finding my proper foot position, keeping my back straight, keeping my lats engaged, and standing up tall especially. That was the last thing I've really learned to do. And I feel like I'm hitting pretty good depth here, and it feels like it's starting to come together. I still have a little bit of tendency to lean forward when I'm about to fail my lift, so I'm really working on trying to eliminate that. My next video is a recent PR of 375 on my bench. One of the things that I want to work on is trying to make sure my hips don't come off of the bench, and I've been working hard to try to really engage my hips, fall into that groove, keep that stretch reflex, engage the lats, and I think there's some subtle changes where I can improve on my bench. Deadlift is looking pretty good. This is a recent PR, 605, and one of the things I've really learned is getting into proper position. And right here, this was awesome for me, so I was really happy with that rep, and looking forward to seeing what else I can pull in the near future. And that's it right now, signing off. Thank you.